Want to go far in business and in life? You can't do it alone. The secret is expanding your network of personal relationships, building friendships, connecting on an intimate level, away from the office, over a coffee or cocktail. Welcome to All In with the real Nate Payo. The show that asks what happens when you go all in and leverage the power of your network of personal relationships.
From author Donnie Bovine comes the book, How to Be a Success Champion, available on Amazon. After years of living other people's dreams, author Donnie Bovine decided to jump out on his own and start a business, thinking it would be easy. Instead, he had a rude awakening and quickly understood that he had spent 20 years being an employee and had no idea how to be a business owner. His business was tanking, and he was on the brink of losing everything when he decided to fight for business freedom. In this must-read and life-changing book, author Donnie Bovine shares with readers his story intermingled with lessons learned from his mistakes and his failures. In How to Be a Success Champion, you will find advice the author received from mentors and how he went from zero to a six-figure business. The author walks you through the steps of how to get out of your own way, how to play the game of business and win, find your strengths, how to network effectively, how to build a personal brand, how to create champions for your business, how to get great at sales, how to take complete ownership of you and your business. How to Be a Success Champion from author Donnie Bovine, available on Amazon in both Kindle and paperback editions. Order your copy right now. It makes a great book for corporate events too. How to Be a Success Champion from author Donnie Bovine, available on Amazon.
Hello, and welcome to the All In podcast with Nate Payo. Of course, I am your host, Nate Payo. Today, I'm joined with Kameale Terry. Kameale is the co-founder and CEO of ChargerHelp, Inc., an app that enables on-demand repair of electric vehicle charging stations. As a former director of programs at EV Connect, an electric vehicle charge station network provider, Kameale structured and led teams to execute electric vehicle infrastructure projects and programs in the United States, Australia, and Canada for commercial and government entities. Her most notable projects include the Electrify America Phase 1 program, the Southern California Edison Charge Ready pilot, and the New York Power Authority portfolio. Prior to this, Kameale created, hired, and oversaw the customer experience department of EV Connect by partnering with the South Bay Workforce Investment Board to employ candidates from the local community. As a South Central Los Angeles native, Kameale believes that an equitable green economy can be achieved through impactful workforce development and realignment. Welcome to the show, Kameale. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing well.
It's great to have you. So, one of the things that kind of stands out is you've been in this EV space for a bit, and clean tech. What made you kind of go in that area of focus?
Yeah, so it's pretty random. So I used to be a banker, and I lived in Philadelphia, and I had to transition because of my mom's health. And so I had climbed up the corporate ladder really quickly in banking and was 24, managing a lot of people, doing a lot of cool stuff, but just kind of exhausted. And so I actually just went on angellist.com or .co. It was just what is a really easy job where I don't have to manage people? And that's where I found my previous company. As I started there just answering tickets through email. Mm-hmm. Because I wanted to do something easy. And then 2.5 years later, I just did a lot of stuff.
That's an interesting journey, because most people wouldn't say hey, I'm a CEO, I'm a founder, and what was my previous job? It was something that I looked to be not a lot of work and something easy. And I'm going to go the exact opposite and go do a lot of work, and it would be very difficult. What got inside your head to kind of make that transition?
Still trying to figure it out. No, but honestly, I think what we're building at ChargerHelp has always been something I've been passionate about. Is how do you create win-win opportunities? How do you do economic mobility? How do you build smart technology. And so it's interesting as I look back through like my very short work journey, because I'm like young, I just see all of these things where I picked up different places, just things to like allow me to build out this company to say like, hey, I can build a really profitable company and be able to enable a workforce and be able to like solve an issue within our industry. And so because of those things, I don't sleep and I work a lot. So it's passion, it's very interesting.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about what does your company do, and what like kind of led you to providing, what was I guess, let me rephrase the question. What would you say the problem you saw was, and how did you think it needed to be solved, and what kind of led you to the business of what you're actually doing?
Sure. So at my previous role at the company I was at, they're a network provider. And so a part of our role when we're rolling out like major deployments, so when we're installing charging stations like all throughout the US and the world, it was really easy for us to find electrical contractors to install the stations. But when it came down to when the stations were having issues or I needed to deploy someone on site, I sometimes may have paid like a lot of money to get someone on site, but they're an electrical contractor. And when they got there, it was a software issue, or it was a communication issue, or it was a firmware issue. And my electrical contractor was like, I don't know what you want me to do with this. Like, it has nothing to do with the electricity. And so then we kept, as an industry, I think it was something that really wasn't talked about because people didn't want to talk that, some of these stations weren't working, because it wasn't just like my company. It was like everyone was experiencing this. And so because I've always had a passion for workforce development, I started thinking like, how can I get people from communities that are similar to mine from South Central LA to partake in this industry? And because really it's not hard to fix the stations, it's to get a body on site that understands it and that's affordable. And so that's basically where the ideal birthed from. So at ChargerHelp, we're building out technology to enable on-demand repair of electric vehicle charging stations by partnering with the community's local workforce. And so, yeah, that's what we're doing.
That's pretty cool. So is it like an app that connects with, there's a lot of EV charging stations companies out there. So the app is experiencing a problem and a notification goes to your app. And then how does it like connect an available technician to go out and service it in a quick manner, and like not have like, I got to go out, drive out there, look at it, find out I need some parts, order the parts and come back 3 days later, because, if it's down, it's inconvenient for everybody.
Right. And so that's why we work. So network providers are our customers. And when we enter into a contract with the network provider, we're basically supplying like warranty for their station. And so in order to do that, a part of our onboarding is to receive their tickets. So when, in a lot of network providers use like Zendesk. And so for instance, we have a Zendesk account, it can pass right through to us. That's kind of like our MVP model right now. But so like basically when someone submits a ticket through the app, as long as it checks off certain boxes that shows that there needs to be someone on site, it passes through to our app. And then it triggers a notification to technicians that are in the area. So they'll receive the notification that they have to get on site. They navigate to the site. And then because we already know what type of charging station, we know what network it is. And most stations usually have 3 common issues. And so I'm very familiar with those. And so we have like, okay, you need to do this, this, and this to either fix it or gather the right information so the network provider knows how to fix it. And then we're able to do a lot of the dispatching usually within like an hour or two. And the folks that we're working with right now is to the Los Angeles Clean Tech Incubator. We're training technicians there, but we're also looking at models where maybe we have a partner right now that they are electrical contractors, but they want to transition into the EV space. So we'll partner with them, allow them to use our mobile app and to go on site to start, fixing the stations, and that becomes our workforce. So we're looking at creating more workforce and then also using underutilized workforce. So even like a AAA, like somebody that already has folks out on the ground, but like maybe they have downtime. And as long as they have access to our app, they're able to get dispatched on site.
Yeah, what's interesting you talk about that is we were meeting with a company called LG, and they make, if you know LG, they make a lot of different things. But one of the things that they're talking about was smart appliances. And they were actually looking at how the workforce is going to service when your refrigerator goes down or an appliance goes down. with a smart Internet of Things appliance. And so like the appliance would notify, this would be for like an apartment community. So it's maybe a little different than a personal homeowner, but the idea would be, hey, something goes down, it notifies LG that there's a problem and it dispatches somebody out there to fix it. And what they were kind of finding is that the people that traditionally fixed appliances didn't know how to handle the smart tech. And so they're like, what they were doing is they started to dispatch, they found it was easier to dispatch like TV and IT repair techs for like, computers and stuff to go learn how to change out a compressor on a refrigerator but also understand the technology of it. So it's kind of cool how you're able to just, eliminate downtime in between service things and provide people an opportunity to be more efficient with their time, and it's a pretty cool thing. So you talked a little bit about an MVP, and I'm going to say a lot of people that aren't in startup culture, startup ecosystems probably don't know exactly what you meant by an MVP. Can you describe kind of where you're at in the process with getting into the LA Clean Tech Incubator, your MVP, and kind of like your journey that brought you to LA Clean Tech Incubator?
Yeah, sure. So with our MVP, that's our, the very bare bones of like what we're trying to do. And so like our MVP right now is really focused on like dispatching and troubleshooting a certain manufacturer that it's not like necessarily public yet, but it's basically like, if we work with this manufacturer, how do we troubleshoot it? How long does it take us to get someone on site? So that's where we're building out the MVP right now. And it should be ready to go by July. With Lacey, we've been able to launch a pilot with them. So we are looking for like proper network providers that have stations in the Southern California area that we can like launch a pilot with. And then my journey to Lacey was being someone that's from LA. I've always been very interested in organizations that come into my city or that like stood up here, and just making sure that I know about them. I think a lot of people that are from my community, like a lot of times we just don't know about stuff that's around. So I'm like always Googling like, what's an incubator? What's a program? So I like kind of like discovered Lacey. And also I was in Grid 110, which is also through the mayor's office. And so I'm always looking for just communities and networks that I think that can help me, because I really feel like I don't have an advanced degree, not a technical person, but what I am is like very friendly, and people, usually like me. So like just using like being able to chat with folks to build out a network to like find people to like that know the things I don't know. And so because of that, that's how I found Lacey and how we're building out the app and how we're getting, the right people to be on the team.
I think that's like a perfect example of something I always preach is like, if you don't know what it is you need to do, like you have to like research and find that, and to be like a self-start initiative going like, hey, what are the like things I could do, and start asking. So when you start going and hanging out in certain spaces, you start getting introduced to others. Like you go to one place, they say, well, here's something you could do. Here's 5 other places you go, which introduce you to something, which introduce you to somebody else. And if you're friendly, and you don't have like everybody's like, oh, people are friendly, build connections, relationships quicker and easier. It's like, well, you don't have to be super outgoing, super like extrovert to create relationships. It's seriously like really is like asking questions, being helpful, being kind and considerate. And people are in these spaces and they kind of guide you in the right spot to do. And then you get plugged in. What's really cool about like Lacey is there's so many different companies doing so many different cool stuff that like you're just kind of exposed to like super smart people from different, like super skilled people in coding, super smart people in products, super smart people in sales, like everything. So you just have a wide range of resources to go pull from to kind of help you on your journey to go. So it's very cool. Yeah. And I think that's an important thing to point out is like, hey, if you don't know the answers, you find the people that do it. And that's by asking questions and seeing where they're at. So how many people do you have working in the company right now?
So, we're bootstrapping. So a lot of my folks are like consultants. So I have probably about 5 or 6 consultants that we currently use in varying capacities, from like someone that's like a CTO, but they're like lending their time to help us build, understand the infrastructure we're building, to someone that's a consultant that's like helping us understand like strategy. So it's been like really neat. Like once again, like it's about authenticity. I think like that's the one thing that I always lean into is just like being authentic and just be like, hey, this is the thing that I want to build. And I've been able to find people. So yeah, I think it's about 5 or so consultants. And eventually the ideal is, either we secure some of the contracts we're bidding so we can start bringing people on, or eventually, go out for a raise. But we really do want to prove the business model. And I think we can get customers. Like, we've been bidding on a lot of stuff. And I think that something's going to shake through eventually to start bringing on a team.
Yeah, and I can attest that there's a need for the service you're providing, because I've been exposed in a limited capacity with installing EV chargers, and I know that they're challenging to deal with when they go down, because it's like such a minor problem, but always such a headache to deal with. And you're just like, I got a million other things to do. I don't have time to worry about, like, did the technician show up? Did it get fixed? Are they coming back tomorrow? Like, what's going on? It's a big pain in the butt. So it's definitely a need that needs to be served, and it's a good thing you've identified, because I haven't really heard much. Like, everybody that I think is in like clean tech or like in this solar space, electrical charging seems to be pushing the product. And there's like this big back end of like, hey, once that's installed, there's like 20 years of service going on that's got to have it happen. So it's amazing stuff. Let me ask you a question. What do you think about the word luck, and what does that mean to you?
I think, I feel like luck is just something that like kind of like randomly happens to you, that you may not have much say in it. That it's just like, oh, okay, like that happened. That's very interesting. That's kind of like, when I think of it, that's what it means to me.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So a little bit about transitioning from bank manager to a job where you said you had little responsibility and little worries, little care in the world, to becoming a CEO. What's been the biggest eye opener for you of going into that role as a leader? Maybe what are some of the skills you learned along the way that prepared you for what you're doing now?
I think one of the biggest things is like asking questions, because even when I started off at my previous company, just answering tickets, like I only had that position for like 3 months before I was managing a department, and then I built 2 more. So, but it's because I was always like asking questions, and like, when my founder would go out to lunch, like I would go out to lunch with them and like listen. Like, it was for me, I think it was about being inquisitive, asking smart questions, and like listening, like knowing just like when to like shut up and just be like I would literally sit at lunch meetings, wouldn't say anything, but I was just seeing how like my founder like talk to this person, or like what they were talking about here, or, I would, and even volunteering to go to stuff. Like there were things like events that like people on my team at my old company wouldn't want to go to, because it was like, it's somewhere random. And I'm like, whatever, I don't have kids. Like send me to the middle of whatever. And I'll go there and I'll like listen to people. And like, I'm a super observer. And even when people think I'm not paying attention, I usually am. And I think all of that, I was only at that last company for about 3 years, but was able to do a lot of cool stuff. And from all of the things that I've learned throughout my time period has been, I'm able to use them now, like all those times, just like maybe like, maybe not getting promoted, but like still having an entry level job, but like still learning stuff. That stuff is paying off.
Yeah, I would say, to kind of start with answering tickets, you probably started going, hey, there's something wrong with this process. There could be a better way to do it, which kind of gets the gears going, but you're asking the right questions, you're seeing the opportunities, and then you're acting on it, which is amazing, because most people would just kind of go, this problem sucks. Like, oh, well, like, I'll just deal with it. Like, it's not my problem to solve. And you're like, hey, I'm going to create this big business out of it. And, and you're making big progress, getting into an incubator that's this, it's not an easy thing to do, to have a proven business model that's attracting customers and talent, that people want to put money back you, and even the ideas, and say, hey, you're competing against a lot of people with a lot of ideas, but it's really about the talent that kind of can execute on those ideas and bring them to market. So I'm really excited to see where your journey takes you. What does the words all in mean to you on an idea or an outcome?
For me, it really meant You just gotta go. I think like that was one of the things. Like my previous company, I really really liked working there, and I really liked the folks there. And a lot of this decisions I made is also because of like my mom's health, and so I had to make the decision of like, okay, well, yeah, I'm gonna stay here, and maybe not take a risk on myself, and have to like balance like helping my mom, or I can just be like, I'm just gonna go. So like all in is just like you literally just have to like make a decision and commit to it and go. And that's what we've been doing.
Yes, you for sure have to do it. And you were kind of describing before we got on the show, like you recently, I think what you said just at the beginning of the year, you started the business.
Yeah.
You're already in Lacey already, and you're already like, looking to secure some pretty big customers, and you're already making some significant headways. It takes some people years to get where you're going. Where do you think, like, not where do you think, but where do you want to take the business in the next 5 years? Where do you see yourself at?
So we want to be number one. We want to be like, when you think about a network provider standing up a service and they're like, who's going to take care of fixing these stations? It should be us. And then even that, we want to start branching out. To your point, like there's a lot of smart technology coming out there. I personally don't think an IT person should also be changing out like something inside of a refrigerator. I think that this is an opportunity to build out a workforce that's a little bit different, that has like both sets, right? And you don't have to pay them as much, but it's still going to be more than what they're currently being paid. And so for us, we want to lead that conversation of what does it look like to create technology in order to help with economic mobility. And we see ChargerHelp and working with charger stations as the beginning of that conversation, as a proof of concept that we can, create really cool stuff and like help people and be profitable at the same time. So in 5 years for us, we want to dominate the market. And then we also want to engage in these conversations on how do we continue to create stuff like this.
Yeah, there's definitely a market to expand on that. When you start thinking of all the things, you go, oh, if I call for a repair on this or something else, like somebody might not come out for 2 or 3 days, or as a repair technician. Like, I haven't been a repair technician, but I've had a business where you're doing service work and you're out in one area of town and you're like, oh, well, I'm done at noon, but right. I'm too far out of the way to go to my next appointment that I'm doing tomorrow to go there early. So I guess go home. But something popped up and said, hey, here, we can fill this void for you. You're being more productive, and you're not wasting your time and having downtime as well. So it's an amazing way to go about doing it. So who kind of is like the customer? Who's that ideal person or company or business that you're really looking to get connected to and talk about, an agreement going forward?
Yeah, I think right now we're really interested in like starting to speak with mid-level network providers. So like for a long time within our industry, it really has been dominated by 3 really large companies, amazing companies that built really cool products in the last like 10 years. But I think there are some like new network providers that are coming up. And so we're really interested in coming alongside them, even with like my hope with a lot of the work I did at my previous company is like responding to RFPs and like securing contract bids and like standing up massive deployments. And we would love to come alongside other network providers that are entering into the market and come alongside it with hope, of how to do the things that, I've done, but then also be able to secure the maintenance for them. So that way they don't have to struggle through some of the things that the other larger players have.
Awesome stuff. So if somebody wanted to get connected to you, where can they find you?
The best place to find me is probably on LinkedIn. I feel like we're all stuck at home. I feel like my LinkedIn page is off all the time. So I'm on my LinkedIn, or that's probably the best place, honestly. My email is already like insane. So add me on LinkedIn, message me on LinkedIn, and then I think like that's the best place to get in contact. And if you want to get in contact with the company in general, it's ChargerHelp.com. There's like a little message section down there if you want to reach out to somebody that's on our team. But me directly, LinkedIn is best.
Very cool. So we'll put all those links in the show notes so everybody can connect with you. And I encourage you to connect to Kameale. Tell her where you found her, and ask her some questions. See what she's up to. I think you got a wealth of knowledge from a lot of things. Like, hey, if you're in the EV space, there's a discussion that could happen. If you're just thinking about starting a business or starting at a startup, like how do you become a CEO? What are some of the challenges you overcome? There's a lot of information, and I encourage you to reach out to her. Or if you say, hey, who do you know at Lacey that can help get me in? Like, reach out, say hello. It's always always, you never know. Like you said,
You never
when you
know.
start asking questions, you never know who's going to help you, where you're going to end up and do it. So definitely encourage that all the time. So thank you so much for coming on the show. Enjoyed having a conversation with you.
Thank you so much. This is awesome.
Thank you.
Make sure to visit our website, therealnatepeo.com, where you can subscribe to the show on iTunes, so you'll never miss an episode of All In. While you're at it, if you found value, we'd appreciate a rating on iTunes, or if simply tell 2 friends about the show. Looking to connect? You can find Nate Peo on LinkedIn or Instagram.